Did you know that rest areas located in rural areas experience more crime than those located in urban areas? And around 41% of highway drivers do not use rest areas due to fear of crime. Those stats are available at the link in the description and pinned comment of this video. If you're new here, hey, I am Dee. I've been part-time car camping in my Hyundai Santa Fe since September of 2021. And friends, uh, in the almost 3 years of car camping, this is the first time where I've had an experience at a rest area that has forced me to reconsider where I use the bathroom, and not only where I use the restroom, but also where I decide to sleep at night when I am car camping. A few weeks ago, I was on a car camping road trip, and the destination that I visited did not allow overnight parking, and there was no free camping in the area. So, as usual, I did my research on where I could sleep for the night. And anytime I have a situation like this, I always pick 3 spots where I can overnight. That way, if spot 1 or 2 don't work out, I can always go to spot 3. I've done my research, so I know for the most part, I'm pretty confident that I am sleeping at a safe location. So I personally don't feel comfortable not planning out where I could possibly sleep when I'm car camping, especially when it's a situation where it is boondocking and it's free and it's not like a campground type of situation. I take my safety very seriously. I did a specific video on this, so if you're interested in watching that, on what I do to make sure I am safe where I am sleeping, you can go ahead and take a look at that video. I'll leave it down in the description and also in the pinned comments. So let's get into it. I did my usual thing. I did my research. I picked 3 different areas where I could overnight, where I should, where I felt, according to my research, that I should have been safe to sleep or overnight car camp at these 3 locations. So the first spot that I picked was somewhere that I've actually stayed at before. If you've watched this channel, you know I enjoy staying at Cracker Barrels at night if there is one available, and that's usually my number one go-to, is to find a Cracker Barrel. And on this particular night, that is what I did. I went to a Cracker Barrel that I have stayed at a couple times before, and I always felt safe there. Um, Never had any issues. But when I pulled up to that spot on this particular night, and yes, I did arrive there at night, which, I really wouldn't advise to do. But in my defense, I had slept overnight at this spot a couple times and never had any issues, and I felt safe there. But this time was different. When I arrived, there were 2 other car campers there. Usually it's a safety in numbers thing for me, and I feel actually better knowing that there are other car campers or RVers there. This time there were no RVs, there were just 2 cars. Well, one was a truck. And the truck was kind of like, the truck was a camper truck. So it was one of those trucks that have the campers on top of it. Um, and I know people are going through hard times right now, so I don't want to sound judgmental. I know what it's like to go through rough times. But this truck camper, um, it was in bad shape. It was pretty run down. And then the car that was parked about 2 or 3 spaces next to that truck camper was also looking pretty run down. And that alone, I was like, okay, people fall on hard times. You can't judge people because of how their vehicle looks. You just can't do that, in my opinion. So what made me suspicious and made me feel unsafe and realize, okay, tonight is not the night to stay here at this Cracker Barrel, was that the 2 occupants of those, the truck camper and the car camper, they were walking between their vehicles and they looked like they were under the influence of something. And again, I'm not here to judge. Addiction is a very hard battle. It is a serious illness. So I'm not here to judge. But I also am aware that when people are under the influence of a drug or a substance, bad things can happen. So I decided, once I saw those two people kind of going back and forth and they were being a little suspicious, um, I just decided to kind of move it on down the road to be safe, because I knew if I stayed there, I would not get a good night's sleep. So the second spot that I had researched was a rest area that was just a few miles down the road from the Cracker Barrel. And that particular rest area, I had been there during the day to use their facilities, but I had never spent the night there. Because, like I said, usually I go to Cracker Barrels. So here's where the night got creepy. And I had an experience that I've never had before. And it creeped me out so bad that not only did I not stay there that night, but I kept driving until the next state, about an hour away, before I found a spot that I felt safe and that nobody had followed me to stay for the night. So I leave the Cracker Barrel, get back on the interstate to go to this rest area a few miles down the road. I turned off the interstate into the rest area ramp. And while I was approaching the rest area, I noticed a lot of cars that were staying there overnight. And some cars had their lights on, like their the nighttime lights. Some cars had those on and there were people inside the cars. And then there were other people that had their cars off, window curtains up or whatever. You could tell people were in their vehicles. But what I found odd was, out of all these vehicles, and then especially the vehicles that the people were in the car and the lights were on, and you could tell it was just maybe like a quick stop, a quick rest, nobody was out of their cars except for one person. So as I'm coming in to find my parking spot, I'm always, head on a swivel. I'm always looking around to kind of peep out the situation, see what's going on. And I found it very strange that there was nobody outside of their cars except for one person. And this person looked as if they were kind of like staying outside of the restroom areas, on the outside of the rest area, and just kind of like pacing back and forth. So as they see my car coming in, and as I'm getting closer, I realize, okay, it's a man, and he starts walking away from like where the restroom area building is, and he starts taking the sidewalk down to where the cars are parked. Okay, at first, no issue, just keeping an eye out. But I'm still thinking, why is this the only person like out? I didn't even see, like, there were glass windows. Usually at a rest area, the buildings have the big glass windows so you can look in at nighttime and see if there are people there. There was nobody except for this one man. So what I was going to do was, I was just going to kind of like I said, immediately I was kind of like, this doesn't, like, something is off. And so I was like, well, I parked right in front of kind of like where the sidewalk comes down from the restrooms. And I parked almost right in front of that sidewalk. And as I'm doing that, well, let me back up. As I'm starting to park in that spot, I haven't even completely made it into that spot yet. That man comes walking down that sidewalk. Okay, no problem. But then it looks like he's like looking directly and making eye contact, like looking directly at my vehicle and trying to peep out the scene to see who's in the vehicle. So I was like, mm. So I don't pull all the way in. I kind of like start inching slowly into the spot. And my gut is like, this is not right. So, like I said, the man is just like, almost seems like he's making a beeline to my car. And I feel like once he saw that there was only one person in the car, he was going to make a move. like that was his opportunity to kind of make a move for whatever he was going to do. So at this point, kind of all my guards went up. I stopped pulling into the spot, so I still had probably about 3 feet in front of me before I was fully parked into the parking spot. And like I said, all my guards were up, so I always keep weapons located throughout the vehicle. And there's one right next to me when I'm driving, I immediately grabbed my weapon. I kept it low, but just in case. So before I could even hit reverse on my car to back out, the man is probably about 6 feet away from my driver's side door. And he's like doing one of these motions, like this, like, you know. And in my head, I'm thinking, a lot of things run through your mind. You think, does this person actually need help? Does this person mean me harm? What is going on? Does somebody else need help and he's coming to try to get help for somebody else? So all of these things are running through my mind. So against my better judgment, because he's going, hey, please, 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 hey. Against my better judgment, I decide, and immediately when I did it, I just knew, like, why are you doing this? Like, in my gut, I'm like, this is a mistake. But I guess it's just like that piece of me that wants to believe that there is good in humanity and give people grace to see, like, what is going on. Does this person need help? But then I've come to realize throughout this situation and just watching other events, um, and other just experiences that have nothing to do with car camping, that there are certain people in this world that prey on that prey on the people that kind of still have that glimpse, still have that hope for humanity, where they give people grace and, you know, want to help people. So anyway, against my instincts, against my better judgment, and as soon as I did it, I knew it was a mistake. I lowered my window down, my driver's side window. I lowered it down about this much. And I said, what's up? I was like, what's up? And like I said, I knew in my gut I had just made a mistake. So when I lower my window a little bit and I say, what's up? He says, so he identifies his vehicle. He tells me that he is from a small town in, I think it was either North Carolina or South Carolina, and that he either needed a ride or gas money to get home. And then he points and he says, my white truck is all the way down at the end. That's my vehicle. And at this moment, a car is pulling up and it parks 2 spots away from me. So basically, here's my car, here's the next parking spot, and then where the guy is standing, and then they park right here. And I noticed there are 2 people in this vehicle. And I can't help but to think that when he pointed down at the vehicle, that was some kind of signal, because here's why. To those people who had just pulled up, they never got out of their car either. And they just kind of sat there. And I really think that when that man pointed down at his white truck, I really think that was a tactic to distract me. I really thought that he thought I was going to look to see where he was pointing, but I never took my eyes off of him. And out of my peripheral, I'm watching now this car that just pulled up with 2 occupants in it. I think one was a man and one was a woman. So it seemed like all of this happened in like 20 or 30 seconds. Like when these types of things happen, it just goes by so quickly. So at that point, I yell, no, I cannot help you. And I hit my car in reverse and I hightailed it out of there. And I'm looking back in my rearview mirror to see, is this guy like gonna walk after the vehicle? Is this guy walk after my vehicle? Is this guy gonna go to his white truck that's parked all the way down at the end and follow me? Is he gonna approach the people that just pulled up 2 spots next to me? And I'm looking and he never approaches that vehicle. He just kind of stays there in that same spot. So the whole time I'm driving way down to the end of the rest area, I make a little turn to get back onto the interstate. He stays there, never approaches the two occupants that had just pulled up. Now, you would think if he needed gas money or a ride that bad, he would have approached them, but it really just solidified that my gut was right. Something was not, this guy, I don't think needed gas money. I don't think he needed a ride. I think he was probably going to try to rob me or steal my car. Because, like I said, when he pointed way down at the end, I firmly believe that was for him to do two things. One, distract me and get me to look away from him and these two people that had just pulled up. And then also that was his signal for the people to come on over. That's just, maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know, but that's kind of where I've landed with this scenario because I've been thinking about it for a few weeks now since it has happened. Now, you may be thinking, okay, no big deal. Nothing to see here. This happens all the time. You know, people ask for money all the time at rest stops. People panhandle all the time. But this was not a simple panhandling situation. This was about to be a setup or worse. And here's why I say that. Let me know what you think. So, number one, when the man told me his vehicle's description and said it was down at the end of the parking lot and pointed, that right there was meant to distract me. He was counting on me to turn my head away from him and from those two people that just drove up. My second reason, he asked a solo female at midnight. So I think I forgot to mention that. This is around midnight, right? He asked a solo woman at midnight for a ride. Call me old fashioned, but it's my belief that a decent man who has some sense in his head is not going to approach a solo female traveler and ask them for a ride, period. Especially at midnight, like, period. A decent man is not going to do that. And number three, again, old fashioned, whatever. I also believe that a decent man would not approach a woman at midnight for money, period. And number four, he did not approach the car that pulled up 2 spots away from me, either because it wasn't a person by themselves or because they were a part of whatever was going on. So that's my take on it. I firmly believe that if I wouldn't have hit reverse and got out of there, that something bad probably would have happened. I think that guy would have probably either tried to rob me or steal my car, both, maybe worse. I don't know. And I'm glad I got out of there so I didn't find out. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you think I'm overreacting, or do you agree that this guy had something nefarious in the works? So either way, at the end of the day, that experience has really made me question this safety of rest areas overall. And then I was doing some research and I found the stats that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So for me personally, I am done sleeping at rest areas. That one experience was enough for me to say, not doing that again, especially if I'm by myself. So what I'll be doing is I'll be carrying my 2 coffee containers that I use as a toilet, and I think I might get back to using my portable collapsible toilet as well from this point, because I don't even feel comfortable stopping at a rest area now to even use the restroom, especially at night. And by the way, both of these locations had great reviews on the apps that I use. But what I didn't and what I don't usually do is, in the case of rest areas or Cracker Barrels, I usually don't look at the Google reviews, because a lot of times it's not specifying for, you know, sleeping there overnight. But after this situation, I did go to the Google reviews of that specific rest area. And there were many reviews of people saying a very similar thing, where there is, especially after night, a lot of people out there asking for money, knocking on car windows and things like that. So I'm going to end it there. That's all I have today. Thank you all for your support on this channel. I really appreciate it. Happy car camping and safe travels. Oh, and one more thing. You may notice that my car camping setup looks a little bit different. I've been wanting to do something with my car camping setup, so everything is out of my car camper right now, except for my 5-gallon water jug over here. And I just knocked over my light. So right now I'm not actually car camping. I am in the midst of a project. I am in the midst of a project for my little car camping setup. And that video should come out probably not next week, but the following week. It has just been extremely hot, so I haven't really car camped in the last few weeks. It's just been too hot. Plus, I have this project that I want to get done. So yeah, that's why I didn't post a video last week. It's been busy and it's been hot. So I hope you all are staying cool. Again, thank you for watching. Happy car camping, and please stay safe out there. See you next time. Bye.